Detective Siki in a villa in the suburbs found the white bones of 13 children. In Yamanashi Prefecture, police quickly set up a special task force. Unexpectedly, the villa owner, Haikoa Juzo, suddenly turned himself in. This guy admitted to killing 13 children, but there was no motive and no reason. The more Siki investigated, the more something felt wrong. Over the past 20 years, Haikoa Juzo illegally adopted 19 children who suffered domestic abuse. Those 13 sets of bones were all children he once raised. The remaining 6 survivors were 26 and another one named Kamishiro Kenryu whose whereabouts are unknown. When the police asked these 5 people what Haikoa Juzo's motive for killing was, their statements were shockingly the same. This is strange. If Haikoa Juzo is not the killer, then why did he turn himself in, and who is the real killer behind these cases? Just when Detective Siki was completely confused, Haikoa Juzo suddenly killed himself in the detention room. The shock came without warning. The task force was completely overwhelmed. Among the 6 survivors, Renka was the most active. She kept following Siki and discovered that the paintings in Haikoa mansion had been swapped. 6 years ago, Haikoa suddenly announced the end of group living. Renka and the other 18 children went their separate ways. No one ever returned to the villa. So the person who swapped the painting was very likely the killer. Task force leader Itsumi searched galleries all over the city. One gallery owner told her the terrifying oil painting from Haikoa mansion was sold by him. Itsumi showed photos and asked the owner to identify them. The owner glanced through them and picked one photo, saying this was the person who bought the painting. Team leader Itsumi looked at the person in the photo. Cold sweat instantly soaked her back. It turned out the killer had been right beside them all along. In the dark night, one of the survivors, Soda, was attacked from behind. He collapsed on the small road leading home. He was tied up and taken to a basement. The kidnapper drew a mysterious hexagon symbol on the wall. This symbol was Haikoa Juzo's spiritual totem. Only children who lived in Haikoa mansion knew it. Renka's phone suddenly rang. The caller was Task Force Detective Suzuki. He said the case had a major breakthrough and wanted to ask Renka to come to Haikoa Villa to uncover the truth. At the same time, Siki was flipping through Haikoa Juzo diary. He discovered Haikoa once dated a woman named Miyuki. They even had a child together. The child took the mother last name, and that woman's last name was actually Suzuki. Renka was kidnapped. Suzuki admitted he was Haikoa Juzo's biological son and also the real killer who murdered the 13 children in Haikoa mansion. Why was this guy so cruel? 20 years ago, Suzuki was abandoned in front of an orphanage. He was always curious. His mother was clearly alive and sent flowers every year on his birthday, so why did she abandon him? To find the answer, he waited day and night and finally cornered his father. Unexpectedly, the man turned and ran away. Young Suzuki searched for a very long time and finally found Haikoa mansion. He saw many children living inside and heard his father tell one of the children, "Blood ties mean nothing, only those who know the hexagon symbol are real family." Young Suzuki could no longer hold back. He ran forward wanting an explanation, but his father pushed him to the ground. Haikoa Juzo's voice was cold and harsh. He said he's not his father. These words pierced his heart like an arrow. It pierced straight through young Suzuki's fragile heart. From that day on, killing the fake children who stole his father's love became his lifelong obsession. In just 2 short years using his identity as a police officer, he tracked down the children Haikoa once raised one by one, brought them to the villa basement and starved them to death. The next day, Suzuki openly returned to the task force. Team leader Itsumi stood up and casually ruffled this guy's hair. Siki had no mood for jokes. The kidnapped Soda was his half-brother. He grabbed Suzuki and dragged him into the interrogation room, pulled out the photo of the painting Saturn devouring his son and asked Suzuki why he bought this painting. Suzuki admitted he bought the painting, but claimed it was stolen the very next day. Siki told Suzuki to drink some coffee and think it through carefully. If he confessed now, it would still count as turning himself in. "Do not underestimate me. I am a detective after all. I know all your tricks. You want to get my DNA right." Suzuki reminded the senior's DNA taken without consent has no legal effect. After saying that, he walked out of the police station in front of everyone. Itsumi pulled open a drawer and took out several strands of hair. Just to be safe, she had used a little trick earlier. This test result may not be accepted by law, but at least it can confirm whether Suzuki and Haikoa are blood-related. The detective captain thought for a moment and told Itsumi and Siki to send it for testing. He would take responsibility if anything went wrong. While everyone waited for the results, the tech unit found surveillance footage under a bridge. The footage proved the one who abducted Soda was Suzuki. The DNA test results also came out. Suzuki and Haikoa were indeed biological father and son. The police chief immediately gave the order to arrest Suzuki at once. Itsumi led the team and rushed to Suzuki's apartment. The group broke the door open. Suzuki was nowhere to be found. A living person was tied up inside the bedroom. Siki suddenly remembered the delivery man he saw downstairs earlier. This was bad. They had fallen into a trap. Now Suzuki knew he was wanted. He would very likely kill the hostages right away. Everything began heading in the worst possible direction. Suzuki originally planned to use his police job to continue killing the others, but now his cover was blown. He could only send Renka and Soda on their way early. Renka wanted to die knowing the truth. She asked who the scar-faced man was, who attacked them at Haikoa mansion that day. Suzuki said he did not know, but he was very thankful to that guy for helping him distract the police. After saying that, he scattered coal, poured gasoline and lit a blowtorch, preparing to treat them to a carbon dioxide death. Soda could not understand it at all. Haikoa Juzo turned himself in. He must have known Suzuki was the real killer. He even chose to die in prison to take the blame. Was that not love? Suzuki lowered his head and let out a cold laugh. If things were really like what Soda said, then it would be quite touching. Unfortunately, Haikoa Juzo did not commit suicide. On the night Haikoa Juzo died, Suzuki walked into the interrogation room and asked his father, "Watching the children you raised with your own hands die one by one, how did that feel?" The detention room fell silent. Suzuki waited for a long time, but Haikoa still did not speak. Suzuki clenched his teeth and said, "Do not think taking the blame for me will stop the killing. The remaining 6 people, not a single one of them will escape. I do not have a son. How many times do I have to say it? Get out of here." Renka suddenly cut Suzuki off. She remembered Detective Seki once said Haikoa Juzo showed no signs of struggle before his death. He must have come into contact with Suzuki skin cells. Haikoa Juzo was killed on purpose. Was that still not love? If that is true, then why abandon me? To protect you. It was written in the diary. On June 18, 1992, Haikoa Juzo came home from work and saw a baby stroller parked outside the gate from far away. He rushed over and held his son in his arms and pushed the door open. What he saw was total chaos. His lover Miyuki lay in the middle of the living room, her whole body soaked in blood. Haikoa saw a man walking over holding a kitchen knife. That man was Miyuki's husband, a hateful domestic abuser. The man demanded the child from him. Miyuki grabbed the blade with her bare hands, screaming for Haikoa to run. "Protect the child. Do not worry about me." Haikoa hesitated for a moment, then left Miyuki behind and rushed out of the house. He remembered what Miyuki had said. That man was a police detective. Finding his whereabouts would be easy. For his son's safety, he painfully left the child at an orphanage and changed his own identity. For over 10 years, they never contacted each other again. That is why father refused to acknowledge you. This might be what love really is. Seki heard a gunshot and rushed toward the side yard of Haikoa mansion. He saw a room sealed with warning tape, raised his hand to tear it open, but a gun was pressed against his head. Suzuki's dark voice came from behind. He ordered him to drop the gun. Seki slowly raised his hands and threw away the pistol in his hand. The old fox was still sharper. Seki subdued the young man in just 3 seconds. After tying Suzuki up, he rushed into the secret room and rescued Soda and Renka. Luckily both of them were unharmed. Suzuki suddenly spoke from the side. The reason he killed the children his father adopted was not only because he was jealous they took his father's love. More importantly, those children had all been abused by their parents. Violent genes can be passed down. To completely eliminate them, the best way was to kill them. He remembered team leader Itsumi once said Seki and Soda both suffered domestic abuse from their father since childhood. They must have inherited violent genes as well. The attacker in the Yamanashi assault case was either Seki or Soda. Before Suzuki could finish speaking, Seki stood up and unlocked his hands with a key, grabbed the punk and punched him to the ground. Then came a second punch, and a third punch. The violent gene inside him really awakened. All of a sudden, Suzuki reached the gun at Seki's waist. By the time Seki reacted, the dart gun barrel was already aimed at his forehead. Soda was shot and fell to the ground. He smiled and said to his brother, "That is great, I can finally protect you once." Seki told Soda not to speak. He pressed hard on the bleeding wound and watched helplessly as his brother stopped breathing. Taking advantage of the chaos, Suzuki staggered and escaped out of the yard. Team leader Itsumi arrived with her men. Countless guns were aimed at Suzuki. In a daze, Suzuki seemed to see his father Haikoa Juzo. He really wanted to ask his father whether he truly abandoned him. "What on earth are you doing?" The Haikoa mansion case was finally closed, but countless mysteries remained unsolved. On the night Haikoa Juzo died, a scar-faced man appeared in front of the police station. Who exactly was this guy? Was he the missing Kamishiro Kenryu, who pushed Renka down the stairs with malice, as Haikoa and Suzuki both died? These questions were sealed forever in the case files. Seki had submitted a confession to the chief. Over the years, he repeatedly attacked abusive men. After turning himself in, he went to prison. 7 years passed in the blink of an eye. After being released, Seki came to Tokyo. He cut off contact with all his old friends and became a complete nobody. That night, reporter Yamashita found him. Yamashita was looking for a woman with a hexagon tattoo on her arm. She believed the case was connected to the Haikoa mansion incident. Seki's attitude remained cold. He was no longer a detective and he did not want to deal with the case anymore. But a new accident appeared. "I am really sorry." When the recording reached this point, it was already 2 in the morning. Miyake was pushed from a rooftop and died. This incident quickly caught the attention of the Yamanashi police. Miyake was a survivor of the Haikoa mansion case. Her death was far too suspicious. Itsumi had a growing feeling that Haikoa Juzo and the surviving people were hiding some dark and unspeakable secrets. Kawaguchi, who was also a survivor, was terrified after seeing the news of Miyake fall to her death. he feared that he would be the next target, so he arranged to meet Tozaki. He originally wanted some comfort, but Tozaki spoke in a strange and eerie way, saying all 5 of us will die, not a single one of us can escape. Itsumi investigated Miyake relationships before her death. She discovered that a reporter had once contacted Miyake. The reporter was looking for a missing girl. The girl had a hexagon symbol tattooed on her arm. What shocked Itsumi even more was reporter Yamashita actually knew where the mass grave was. Long time no see, old acquaintances met again. Siki showed no sign of joy at all. Itsumi brought up Miyake case. She had contacted other survivors. Renka and Kamishiro Kenryu had both disappeared in strange ways. When he heard the name Renka, something deep in Siki's heart was triggered. Itsumi handed Siki the notebook he used back then. The notebook recorded many cases from the Yamanashi police. The next day, Siki took the initiative to find Yamashita and asked about the missing girl. Yamashita took out the files. The missing girl name was Tsukishima. She had suffered abuse from her father and ran away from home, then vanished without a trace. The two went to a place where runaway girls gathered. One girl told them Tsukishima often went to a certain supermarket. The supermarket staff told them about a month ago, Tsukishima was caught stealing. Another girl paid for her. Siki asked if that girl was covered in tattoos. The female clerk shook her head and denied it. She said the girl bought a lot of Planet chocolates. Siki immediately thought of Renka. Unfortunately, the surveillance footage from a month ago had already been overwritten. The two returned to the police station. Itsumi revealed a shocking piece of news. She had just found Renka's motive for killing Miyake. Back then, Renka was pushed down the stairs. Siki had once checked the survivors' alibis. Itsumi had just gone to the tattoo shop where Miyake used to work. The shop owner said back then, he gave false testimony for Miyake. When the detective asked me, I told them Miyake started her shift at 9. Later I heard from the staff. That day, Miyake was actually 30 minutes late. Right after that, Itsumi took out Haikoa diary again. These diaries were dug up by Renka back then at Haikoa mansion. The diary entries ended when Haikoa disbanded the family. The very last page had been torn out. Renka was the first person to touch the diary. Itsumi suspected that the missing page most likely recorded something harmful to Renka. Siki felt this did not make sense. If the diary really contained damaging information, Renka had no reason to hand it over. Itsumi immediately responded. Back then, Renka came to the police station to deliver a package. Siki was not there, so she passed it along instead. She did not know the package contained a diary. Renka only said she dug something up at Haikoa mansion and hoped it would help solve the case. She casually asked one more question. Why would Renka suddenly return to Haikoa mansion? Renka told her Haikoa Juzo's last wish was to scatter his ashes in the yard. 4 people went there that day. Any of them could have seen Renka dig up the diary. That of course included Miyake. Siki searched his memories about Renka. A dragonfly resting on a bridge made him think of his younger brother Soda, who died many years ago. Today happened to be Soda's death anniversary. Siki bought a bouquet of flowers and came to his brother's grave. Unexpectedly saw a box of recently burned Planet chocolates. He immediately stood up and chased after it. Just as expected, Renka had also come to pay respects to Soda. At the same time, the phone at the police station rang. A new detective named Matsumura picked up the call. The voice on the other end told him a set of white bones was found in the backyard of Haikoa mansion. Siki stepped closer and closer. Renka stepped back step by step. Miyake's strange fall to her death. Tsukishima vanished without any reason. Siki wanted to know whether these things were truly connected to Renka. But Renka suddenly turned and ran. Siki rushed down the stairs after her. But Renka got into a taxi and disappeared at the end of the cemetery. Siki wanted to stop a car and chase her, but the phone in his pocket rang. Yamashita on the other end urged him to come to the station immediately. A set of white bones was found in the backyard of Haikoa mansion. The forensic results were not out yet, but Tsukishima could be ruled out for now. The girl had only been missing for 1 month. The chance of turning into bones was very small. Yamashita let out a sigh of relief after hearing this. Itsumi continued. A few days ago, workers in the Haikoa backyard saw a young woman holding azalea flowers. She showed the workers a photo and they confirmed it was Renka. The police had now listed Renka as the top suspect. Siki stayed silent and did not respond. He hid the fact that he had seen Renka at the cemetery. He and Yamashita went to question the survivors. Kawaguchi was deeply worried about his own safety. Siki asked Kawaguchi if he was hiding anything. Kawaguchi believed the person who killed Miyake was Kenryu. Back when they were still living at Haikoa mansion, everyone found out Kenryu was fooling around outside. They reported this to Haikoa Juzo. Kenryu was then kicked out of Haikoa mansion. That guy must have deeply hated everyone. The next day, the police came to investigate the house. That very night, Haikoa Juzo announced the end of their group living. At least tell us the reason for the breakup. This fake family ends right here, before the sun set. Siki brought Yamashita and went to find another survivor, Tozaki. Trash was piled up like a mountain inside the house. On the wall, the two of them discovered a huge hexagon symbol. Tozaki was hiding nervously in the corner. He kept muttering to himself. The hexagon snowflake only has 3 pieces left. All of them must die. Not a single one can escape. Siki vaguely felt something was off about Tozaki's words, but he could not put his finger on it. Early the next morning, using the contact information given by Kawaguchi, he reached Kenryu's biological mother, Hisao. Yamashita asked whether Kenryu had come home recently. Hisao did not know her son whereabouts, but she felt extremely relieved because Suzuki had once come looking for her back then. If she had known where her son was, Kenryu might already be dead by now. Speaking of it, she felt deep regret. When she was young, she was blinded by love. After having a second child with her remarried husband, she slowly began to distance herself from Kenryu, so it was only natural that her son ignored her. Siki asked the same question Suzuki asked back then, whether Kenryu might already be dead. Hisao smiled after hearing this and said 1 year on Mother Day, Kenryu gave her a red carnation. She said the color red looked like blood and she really disliked it. The next year, she received a yellow carnation from Kenryu, and she received one again this year. Only the two of them knew about this, so Kenryu must still be alive. As the two were leaving, Siki saw a red carnation in the trash can. Yamashita felt it was very strange. The meaning of yellow carnations is contempt. It seemed Hisao did not know that Kenryu was using this way to mock his mother's cruel abandonment back then. Just after the two left, a scar-faced man rang Hisao doorbell. Inside the police station, Itsumi reviewed the surveillance copied from the tattoo shop. She discovered that 3 days before Miyake died, Renka had gone to see Miyake and handed her a note. Was Renka arranging to meet Miyake at a high building and then took the chance to kill her that very night? The third victim appeared. Tozaki was tough and did not die, but he completely lost consciousness. The driver insisted it was an accident. What was suspicious was the last phone call Tozaki made before the incident was to Renka. Yamashita searched through online videos and discovered that Renka had appeared at the car accident scene. Even though Siki had not been a detective for many years, his observation skills were still sharp. He searched for the balloon in Renka's hand and found it was a gift from a coffee shop. He and Yamashita found the coffee shop, unexpectedly. After the owner saw Tsukishima photo, her attitude became extremely hostile. Siki saw several young girls walk up to the second floor, so he directly rushed upstairs. Tsukishima was there. The coffee shop owner explained, she grew up in an orphanage, so she offered shelter to homeless children. Tsukishima had just arrived yesterday. After the owner left, Yamashita asked Tsukishima whether she had been with Renka these past few months. The young girl nodded. That day she stole a box of chocolates at the supermarket. Luckily she met Renka. Renka not only paid for her but also took her to a place called Haikoa Mansion. Yamashita asked about the hexagon tattoo. Tsukishima talked about that night. Renka suddenly told her she could not give her a home like Haikoa Juzo. Tsukishima curiously asked who Haikoa Juzo was. Renka told the story of Haikoa Juzo. She felt the meaning of the hexagon symbol was very good, so she tattooed it on her arm. Yamashita continued to ask whether Renka had shown any strange behavior recently. Tsukishima thought for a moment and said Renka often stared at a yellowed piece of paper in a daze. Siki thinks about the diary pages of Haikoa that were torn out. Tsukishima notices the change on both of their faces. She asks Yamashita if they are investigating the tattooed woman who died. Yamashita quietly admits it. Tsukishima speaks directly. Renka could never kill anyone. As soon as the words leave her mouth, Siki's memories instantly go back 7 years. The 5 survivors once said the exact same thing. Siki asks where Renka is right now. Tsukishima says she does not know. After Renka took her to the cafe that day, she read 2 strange lines of poetry and then left. Lonely souls are buried under the snow. Only the gray snow knows. Siki suddenly jumps to his feet. He knows where Renka is, under the waterfall in Kiba village. Beside the stone monument carved years ago by Haikoa Juzo, now completely covered in green moss, Renka looks at the hexagon symbol in the pouring rain. She turns around and sees Siki running toward her. The two stare at each other for a long time. Finally Siki speaks. The police already know about Tsukishima being kidnapped. He asks Renka if she wants to run away with him. Renka does not answer. Siki slowly steps forward on the narrow path leading to the waterfall. Itsumi hears Matsumura say the DNA test results of the unknown remains are back. It is Kamishiro Kenryu, one of the 6 survivors. Itsumi freezes for a few seconds before reacting. If the remains belong to Kamishiro Kenryu, then who is the scar-faced man? Kenryu's mother. Hisao once said Kenryu was not dead. This year someone still sent yellow carnations, so who sent those flowers? While Itsumi is thinking, Siki pins the scar-faced man against a rock. Renka turns and runs away. Siki loses focus for a brief moment. He was knocked down to the ground by the scar-faced man. The next second, a sharp dagger was hanging right over his forehead. Suddenly, Itsumi shouted loudly from the side. The scar-faced man turned his head and saw 2 guns aimed at him at the same time. After a brief moment of hesitation, he dropped the dagger in his hand. Itsumi walked up and brought the scar-faced man back to the police station. After a full day and night of non-stop questioning, this guy did not say a single word. Matsumura opened the autopsy report of the unknown ulna bone. Judging from the bone age, Kamishiro Kenryu likely died at 19. Besides that, The forensic doctor also found a stab wound from a sharp weapon on the ribs. This case was very likely a murder. At this point, among the 6 survivors, Miyake and Kenryu are dead, Tozaki is seriously injured and hospitalized, Renka is missing. Yamashita suddenly remembered, the last time he saw Miyake, he asked Miyake for the survivors' contact information. Miyake's reaction was very strange. Thinking about it now, Miyake should have already known that Kenryu was dead. That sentence woke Siki up. He drew a hexagon symbol on the board and pinned up the photos of the survivors. He remembered Tozaki once said only 3 pieces of the hexagon snowflake were left. At that time Miyake had just died. There should have been 4 people left among the 6. In other words, Tozaki also knew the truth about Kenryu's death long ago. Sadly, the 2 people who knew the truth, one died and one was injured. Siki thought about it for a long time. They had to force the scar-faced man to talk. Renka once told him she grew up in an orphanage in the suburbs when she was young. Luckily this orphanage had not closed down yet. Siki flipped through photo albums from many years ago. He noticed there was always a little boy next to Renka. At the same time, Itsumi went to Hisao home and told her the news of Kenryu's death. Hisao's reaction looked very calm. Matsumura asked around the neighbors. An old woman told him she once saw a man with a birthmark on his face coming to deliver yellow carnations. That man was very likely Haikoa Juzo, but the problem is Haikoa Juzo passed away 7 years ago, so who has been sending the flowers these years? On the other side, Siki and Yamashita followed the address given by the orphanage and found the apartment where Renka and her mother lived as children. Yamashita took out the photos. The landlord recognized Renka at once. He angrily cursed the mother and daughter as heartless, saying they vanished without a trace after burning down his apartment. Siki connected all these clues together and figured out the identity of the scar-faced man. Itsumi returned to the police station to interrogate the scar-faced man. She took out the photos and asked if the man was called Raikawa Ryo. The scar-faced man stayed silent. Itsumi continued asking, from the fire 20 years ago to the Haikoa mansion case 7 years ago, then to the attack on Konoha village 2 days ago, all these years, Raikawa has stayed by Renka's side, but what was the reason? Was it because of love? Itsumi's voice echoed in the interrogation room, until it completely faded. Only then did Raikawa open his mouth. He protected Renka because of a wrong promise. Many years ago, after Renka's mother was released from prison, she wanted to take Renka away from the orphanage, but Renka did not want to leave. It was Raikawa who encouraged her, saying having a family is a very happy thing. Renka believed those words. She did not expect that was the start of a nightmare. Her mother not only failed to give her a decent life, beatings, hunger and confinement became daily routine. When Raikawa saw the injuries on Renka's face, he felt overwhelming guilt. He swore he would protect Renka no matter what. Later, Renka met Haikoa Juzo. After days of observation, Raikawa confirmed the children living in Haikoa mansion were happy. Haikoa Juzo also promised him that he would take good care of Renka. Only then did Raikawa feel relieved. More than 10 years later, Haikoa Juzo suddenly ended the group living. Renka returned to her mother's side. Raikawa discovered Renka's mother not only had no job, but also took all of Renka's income. Because of this, he saved a large sum of money and begged Renka's mother to let Renka go. Renka's mother said this little money is not enough. Renka's birth ruined my life. It is only right for her to support me, unless I die. That night, Raikawa took advantage of Renka's mother being drunk and set the apartment on fire. A few years later, the Haikoa mansion case appeared in the news. Just released from prison, Raikawa went to find Haikoa Juzo. The man took out a hexagon symbol, asking him to protect Renka well. From that point on, Raikawa silently stayed by Renka's side. Back then when Siki traced the oil painting of Nashin Tanko, he called Suzuki to the Haikoa mansion. Raikawa noticed Suzuki pulling out an injection, trying to harm Renka in the basement. He rushed forward without hesitation and attacked Suzuki. Renka never knew there was a guardian living in the shadows. The two got into a struggle. In the panic, Raikawa accidentally injured Renka. In the end, he still failed to protect Renka. After hearing the whole story, Itsumi brought up Miyake and Tozaki. How did these two threaten Renka? Raikawa said their accidents had nothing to do with him. After retelling Raikawa's story, Itsumi felt that man must be hiding something harmful to Renka. Siki always handled cases based only on evidence. To uncover the truth behind Kamishiro Kenryu's death, first they had to figure out who had been sending the yellow carnations to Hisao all these years. He visited every flower shop in the prefecture and finally found an answer at one shop. On Mother Day, Miyake bought a red carnation. Siki felt something was off, because that day in Hisao trash bin, he saw a red carnation. If that flower was sent by Miyake, Hisao should have become suspicious. At this moment, the shop staff said the day after Mother Day, a woman came to buy a yellow carnation. Siki received a call from Kawaguchi. Renka had someone deliver a package. Inside was one page from Haikoa diary. Siki took it and looked. It was exactly the page that had been torn out. That day, the children of Haikoa mansion celebrated Haikoa birthday. After the birthday party ended, Miyake quietly asked Renka where is the birthday gift prepared for dad. Renka walked toward the basement and found the lights were on inside. She walked in to take a look and saw that Kenryu had returned. Renka tried to persuade her brother to apologize to their foster father. But Kenryu looked down on Haikoa Juzo character. The people he hated most in his life were parents who abandoned children. The more Kenryu cursed, the more intense he became. The more Renka listened, the worse she felt. No matter what, Haikoa Juzo treated everyone well. Was that still not enough? Kenryu became furious after hearing this. He had just been kicked out by Haikoa Juzo. After Renka finished speaking, she turned to leave. Kenryu suddenly slammed her onto the table. Kenryu said, family with or without blood ties, all of them shut me out. The hand around her neck tightened more and more. The strong feeling of suffocation made Renka's vision turn dark. Suddenly, she felt the hand on her neck loosen. Miyake looked panicked and kept saying sorry over and over. Kenryu rushed over and grabbed Miyake by the neck. Miyake pushed him away. Kenryu accidentally stepped on a wine bottle and fell backward, landing on his back. The impact drove the scissors straight into his heart. Haikoa Juzo and Tozaki heard the noise and came to the basement to check. Kenryu spat out blood and stopped breathing on the spot. Miyake and Renka were terrified. In their daze, they heard Haikoa Juzo say, "Leave here right now. I will handle the rest." Tozaki watched Miyake and Renka leave. Shaking, he told his foster father he could help. They took advantage of the night, dug a pit in the backyard and buried Kenryu. But Tozaki was still just a child. From that day on, a deep mental shadow was burned into him. From time to time, he would see his big brother ghost coming back for revenge. Because of this, he became jumpy and unstable. Yamashita said this is why Haikoa suddenly ended life at Haikoa Mansion 13 years ago. The truth of the Haikoa Mansion case was finally revealed. Back then, Haikoa turned himself in not only to stop Suzuki from killing again, but also to keep Kenryu's body from being discovered. Renka and Miyake did not know the real killer in the Haikoa case was Suzuki. They thought their foster father was taking the blame for them, so they deliberately staged a fake fall down the stairs and made up a killer out of thin air, trying to divert the police attention. What they did not expect was that Suzuki would personally kill his father. In fact, as early as 50 years ago, Haikoa also killed his own father. Fate is like a roulette wheel going around again and again, repeating the cycle endlessly. Siki discovered a note tucked inside the diary. On the note, Renka wrote that she wanted to atone for what happened back then. At this moment in a certain basement, Renka asked Hiseo, "Did you kill Miyake?" Hiseo still looked very calm. She said Haikoa clearly wrote a note asking Miyake to send her a yellow carnation. But that fool bought a red one instead and shattered her illusion that lasted for years. "I am truly very sorry. I really did not mean to kill him." After that, she developed delusional disorder, always believing her son was still alive. But people kept coming to tell her son is already dead. Hiseo said Kenryu is still alive. At the police station, Raikoa suddenly smashed his head into the wall and killed himself. The officer on duty rushed him to the hospital. No one expected Raikoa was faking unconsciousness, because everything happened too suddenly. He was not handcuffed. This guy knocked the officer down, grabbed the gun and escaped. Itsumi received the news and went to arrest him. Siki borrowed a police car and headed alone toward the Haikoa mansion. Itsumi arrived one step ahead. She pushed open the basement door of the Haikoa mansion, but there was no one inside. Renka had already dug her own grave. She asked Hiseo to spare Tozaki and Kawaguchi. The truth about Kenryu was known only to her, Miyake and Haikoa Juzo. Let this matter end with her death. Siki and Raikoa appeared at the same time. Raikoa held the gun and pressed forward step by step. He scolded Kenryu's mother for being all show. If she had treated Kenryu better back then, there would not have been so many things later. This scene completely caught Renka off guard. She heard Siki say this matter should not end with violence. From Inuyama to Haikoa, from Renka to Tsukishima, would it not be better to pass this protection on? Kenryu's mother and Raikoa were arrested and imprisoned. Reporter Yamashita turned this incident into a novel. The story of the Haikoa mansion was passed down like this. The plot summary of Eternal Silence Like Snow ends here. Thanks for watching. See you next time.